Great decorating is all about the details, including a gorgeous textured set of coasters. How we love a coaster. Functional. And why not be beautiful? Quince has a gorgeous set of woven rattan coasters in 3 terrific colors with their own little holder that you're going to absolutely love. And if you haven't visited quince.com/DTT yet, get on over there. It's everyday elevated living without the markup. From crisp 100% linen bedding and soft organic cotton towels to airy curtains and premium kitchen tools designed for everyday use. And the best part? Like Quince's clothing, their home goods are half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Elevate your space with home essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. Do you feel it in the air? It's time for a change. Hey everybody, it's Kelly Wilkins here with Anita Joyce, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Today we're gonna get cozy with you. It's our Let's Get Cozy episode for fall, but also to slide into winter. I love this time of year.
Oh, it finally cooled off here. It was so hot just a few days ago. I was thinking, are you kidding me? This feels like the middle of summer. But now, today, it is cool. I've got my house shoes on. I got my cozy slippers on. I'm so excited. I've got a sweater on because, it's sweater weather.
Yes. Well, I finally get to pull out those Quince cashmere sweaters I keep buying.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't treated yourself to one of those, definitely do that. And you've learned how to kick the kitsch because we did our episode about fall decor without the kitsch, but you might be saying to yourself, now what? So we've got some ideas today how to cozy up your house and kind of cozy it for a bit of the long term for not only the fall season, but sliding into winter and certainly bringing you up to the holidays. On the heels of Kick the Kitsch, we're going to be offering you ideas that have an elevated feel and they're subtle. So you're not going to really get hit in the face with a pumpkin. It's not that we don't love our pumpkins, but they have a short shelf life. What we want to talk about today is cozying up your house. So whatever you're doing, you're spending the time and maybe even a little money on, it's going to last you through the fall into the winter time. So what's your first idea, Anita?
Adding some animal prints. I really kind of thought about this because I was wondering, why do I really think of animal prints with the cooler weather? But I think of it because they're very warm. Typically they're warm colors. And you think back in years past, people had to use animal skins to warm up in. Not that we're all very friendly and we're into the faux now because we love animals. So I'm really thinking about faux. But those prints make me think of cool weather. So I'm thinking about adding animal prints with maybe pillows, throws, maybe even some bedding for your bed, table runners, rug. There's so many ways that you can add animal print. And I have even some hand towels that have an animal print on it that I love to get out. In fact, I think I have some hanging up today. So there's a lot of ways to add it. And I think it really does add that the warmth.
Well, again, people would think we prepared for these shows. When you see what's going to happen today or you hear what's going to happen today, my crush, you're going to have to wait for it. But my crush is an animal print fabric that I can't stop touching. It is so delicious. It is so delicious. I'm touching it right now. Can you hear it? I'm rubbing my hand on it.
I can't wait to hear what it is.
It's so delicious. But yeah, well, you had me at animal print. I absolutely adore animal prints. And I agree with you. I think that they work really nicely for the fall and the winter. they really are traditionally the warmer colors. And so if you want to add those for fall and into the winter, create some cozy with them, I think that's a terrific idea. And sort of playing off that, velvet. Velvet is so hot, super on trend, has been. I think we talked about it in our trend episode for 2024 when we did our projections back last year. But velvet has stayed with us. It's always going to be with us. It's a classic. It's just going to kind of pop to the surface a little bit more and maybe recede. So it is definitely on the surface right now, and its surface feels so good. And you can't really think of velvet without feeling the warmth and the cozy and the luxury of it. So even if you add it in the tiniest little way, I think that it would really cozy up your spaces. Now, of course, if you've got velvet on something that you're going to actually interact with, like a pillow, or maybe on one side of a throw is velvet and the other side is maybe another material, that's really nice. Or you could do a runner down your table, but something that you might touch a little bit more. But there's also a really subtle way to add velvet. It's in your lampshades. And we're always, we're always encouraging you to really take your lampshades up a notch. But I found some velvet lampshades for everyone to check out. They're on Amazon. They're very inexpensive for a lampshade. I'm going to say, Amazon changes a little bit. And if you change the color, sometimes the price changes. But somewhere in the $30 range for a 13 by 10, which is a nice size drum shade. I picked one out. It's in my cart. And I'm
getting so excited because I can't wait for your animal print brush. And these lampshades sound amazing. And I'm looking at animal print and velvet in my room right now. So I'm super excited.
Oh, gosh. Okay, good. So you're going to have to wait for the crush because, they come at the end. I think you're familiar with that. But the velvet lampshade, will have the link in the show notes. I picked out the ochre, mustardy, burnt yellow that I love. And I think I'm going to get that for my entryway because right now I have a woven seagrass lampshade. Might have been a Ballard purchase from many years ago, and it's great. And it really could carry me through the whole year if I didn't feel like changing it out. But the entryway is something I see coming and going all day long. That's the only way I come into my house when I'm out in the wild and I come back in. So I always want that not only to be warm and welcoming, like we've talked to you about so many times. We've got lots of episodes about decorating your entryway and things you should have in there and how you really want to make it inviting. So changing it out for the seasons is something that I like to do. So I think I'm going to have to make that purchase after we're done today.
I think I'm going to have to get the link before we stop recording. And again, we're both on the same track here because what I have on my list are to add some velvet curtains to your room. And if you feel like your house cannot handle velvet year round because maybe you're in a hot climate, then this is something that you can change out and use linen in the summer and velvet in the winter. But to be honest with you, I got the most amazing velvet curtains. I think I've talked about them before, and I'm leaving them up year round. I didn't feel hot with them in the summer. I guess just because of the way the whole room is, it works. But I think this would be great to add if you don't already have it. But the velvet, just what a change it can make to a room. It is luxurious. And I used half price drapes, which you use. And, not a sponsor, but we keep talking about them. But
I should really tell them they should be a sponsor.
I know. Well, they're heavyweight and they are lined. So these are wonderful. In fact, I think I'm going to get some for my mom's cute little apartment. But, you were talking about trends, and I'm thinking, Kelly, we need to do another trend episode. We have not done one.
Oh, my gosh. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, we want to get that in sort of end of November. Get that on the schedule.
I know. So I'm going to do that.
Here's more of a decorating technique, if you will, or an idea to think about throughout your home in different places and in different ways is to layer. So we've talked to you about layering rugs. That really makes a difference. This is a great time of year to layer because we're talking about cozy, we're talking about warmth, we're talking about just a little extra in a good way. So if you don't layer your rugs right now, maybe you want to think about some warmer patterned rug to go over maybe your jute or sisal, maybe a faux animal print so you get that organic shape. That's great. But there are other places to layer too. Clearly, the bed is a great place to layer. And for practicality, you might be changing out your bedding now because you need some more blankets. You're a little colder.
I was going to cover that next, so I'm going to cross that off. We really are on the same path here today.
I am not going to cover that. I'm just mentioning places
Okay.
that you can layer. So you could layer on your table. You could put a throw on there. You could then add some other layers on there. So the idea is just to look around your home and think of places where you might want to put something a little cozier. The back of a sofa, the back of a love seat, even the back of a chair, if it's not a gigantic throw or something, could handle that. So think about places where you can add that extra layer, and that just is going to add up to lots and lots of cozy.
Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and mention the bedding then. So I'm thinking if you have more than one set of bedding for your bed, this is kind of the time to switch those out and put on the animal prints. Get out the velvet, get out your kind of your warmer colors and pull off maybe the linens. Like I have a linen blanket and it's really getting to be past time for that. I don't know that it ever really gets cold enough here for wool, but if you have wool blankets and you live somewhere cooler, you might want to think about getting those out. And I love the idea of maybe a beautiful wool Pendleton blanket folded at the foot of your bed. I think that adds so much to a room. Or what about getting out a duvet and folding that up and putting it at the foot of the bed? I think that really does look so cozy. And I mean, when it's cold and you see that bed just piled up with a fluffy duvet and some very inviting pillows, I just can't wait to get in bed for the night when I see that.
Oh, I love it. Get back in the wrapper. It's fabulous. So I love the idea of a long bolster across your bed. That bolster just running across horizontally, it just sort of unifies all the pillows. Mm-hmm. I really didn't use that look on my bedding until we had bespoke decor, and then I used my employee discount, which
oh yes, I've got several of those.
I think I kind of wore that out, but and I got some bolsters. So then I have the bolster insert. So once you get the bolster insert, and then you can change it out. So maybe a velvet bolster.
Oh, I've got two, and they make the bed. They just finish it off beautifully.
The one that I have that we used to sell was in that yummy velvet. I think I have a gray one, and it had ties at the end. So it was so easy. You know, even if you're not a terrific sewer, you could make that if you've got a sewing machine. I mean, I guess you could do it by hand, but you know, you don't want to Betsy Ross yourself. So if you just do a seam, and then you could actually tie it even with some coordinating ribbon or something at the end.
That's the easiest pillow cover to do is for a long bolster. You're just sewing one seam and make sure the ends are hemmed. You can even use hemming tapes on the ends. And then a tie, and you could just use ribbon for the ties. You don't even have to do any sewing for those ties. But it is amazing what that will do. And I have some linen ones and some velvet ones, and I just love them. I just love them.
So think of a giant long Tootsie Roll with the little twisties at the end, right? So that's what you can envision. There's your pattern. Now you got it. Go for it. Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. So have you tried Dupe yet? If you haven't, come on, dupe.com. It is going to be your new shopping best friend. And it's not just for furniture. I know I've shared with you about my coffee table dupe, but you can save money with Dupe on fashion, shoes, jewelry, and more. I just used Dupe to find an absolute perfect twin of this t-shirt that I wanted. It was an $80 t-shirt. I was not going to pay $80 for a t-shirt. Dupe helped me find the twin, like maybe the exact same shirt. Find something you love, and then you can find replicas, twins, and maybe the exact thing for so much less. Give Dupe a try today. It is really so easy to use. You just type dupe.com// before any product URL in your browser, and voila, it instantly finds you less expensive alternatives. They even have an app and a browser extension you can download. No account is required. No sign up is required. It is completely free. I know, can you believe it? But it is completely free to use. Stop wasting money on brand names and start saving with dupe.com today. How about introducing some red? Everybody stepped away from red for quite some time now, and I used to be very into red. I had a lot of red in our former house. My kitchen cabinets were even this dark red, which I loved. It really worked for that house. If you love red and you haven't used it in your decor for a while, this is a great time of year to start introducing red. If you can find kind of a muted red, a moodier red, then that red can carry you through up into the holidays. And then you do your holiday colors that are slightly off from the very traditional bright red and bright green, which we love anyway. So if you want to start introducing some red now, more of the fallish red, like think of a red of a changing maple tree, that kind of red. Particularly, I'm thinking more like a Japanese maple tree because the red almost has a little bit more of a purple under it. So think about that sort of red that you could add in.
Well, it's so interesting that you say red. My mother had some really beautiful bedding that I think she had made for her king-size bed years ago, but it was really pretty. And, we moved her down near me, and she's now in an apartment, whereas before, she had a house. So she was thinking of downsizing that, resewing it for a double bed. And I said, you know what? I have some amazing red velvet bedding that I used to have on our bed years ago when I was in the red phase. The bedding was so expensive and so luxurious. I just thought, I am not getting rid of this because I won't, I'm just keeping it until red comes back or I decide I want it. And so when she said she was going to sew those, I said, no, just take this bedding, put it on your bed. You're going to love it. And it is rich red velvet. It has animal print pillows that go with it. There's brown velvet bed skirt that goes with it, and some other just beautiful pillows. And she loves it. She is so happy with this. It has a mink, obviously faux mink edging on the pillows.
Wow, this sounds like it could be a hotel room in Vegas.
Okay, I know. It's actually prettier than it sounds. It's just kind of these. It is really pretty. I mean,
is she dating anyone? No. What's going on over there?
No, although never mind. I don't even want to say. It's too funny. But anyway, so I think the red is a great idea. And so think about that. And I know that sounds really gaudy the way I described it, but it is really much more subdued than I made it sound. But it is pretty. And
I wish I had known you when you were in that phase.
Yeah, as I'm describing it, you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, it was beginning to sound like Las Vegas."
When did the lavender come into play? Okay.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Anyway, but it actually does look a little less crazy than it sounds. But on to my next item, which is bamboo shades, because again, like the animal prints, these are warm colors. They add texture and personality to your room. And if you have white faux blinds, white faux wood blinds, that's a very cold look. And I think that's probably going to feel kind of cold in the winter. So if you have something like that, if you have some sort of white window coverings, you might think about some bamboo shades, because I think in the summer they feel kind of tropical.
Yes.
And like you're on the island. But in the winter, they just add this warmth to the room because it's a warm color. And they just add texture and interest. So I think that's something to think about. And I can include the link to the ones that I've been using that are my favorites for right now, because that does change.
I agree. I think those type of shades are kind of seasonal chameleons. They kind of work with whatever's going on. And that's a way for someone who does live in a hotter climate, that's hotter throughout the year, to sort of introduce a little bit more warmth, but not in a claustrophobic sort of, velvet and faux mink sort of way, right? So this is something that we're going to have to pursue this off mic. But back to the colors. How about adding the mustard yellow, the burnt yellow, the ochre yellow that I love, because that is a wonderful fall color. You see that in the autumn leaves. So it's definitely a color that is a natural one for this time of year. But imagine it sliding into your holiday decor. And really, whatever if you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or any other holiday, you can always use a goldish type of color that works with your either super seasonal decor or just adding that subtle time of year touch that we really love. So I think that the mustard yellow, it plays so nicely with the shinier metallic type golds that it would be able to slide right in. So say you got that lampshade I'm referencing, or you did an ochre yellow pillow, that could then keep going for you, keep working for you in this lovely way all the way through even January.
Definitely. I love that color. I'm really warming to the yellows again.
And orange, you told us a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. Orange and the red kind of warming. I mean, my mom is so happy with that red bedding. I cannot tell you. And it's been in a box for so long. But
that's great. That's so great that you kept it and she loves it.
Right. So, a few episodes ago when we were talking about fall changes, I did talk about changing out your dishes for your, seasonal dishes. To go with that, changing out your table linen. So if you have a floral tablecloth or placemat on your table, what about going with something a little more cozy? And before we recorded, I remembered suddenly, hey, wait a minute, I have some faux furry table runners. And so I went upstairs, I actually found them and got them out. And I thought, okay, it's time to use these. They're just very cozy and warm looking. And I cannot wait to get them on the table. I think they're going to look so fun and just very inviting.
Sticking with the faux fur, that IKEA little sheepskin, they've had this for years in their product line. So you can get it still for about somewhere around 35, 40 bucks. And I think it's like 2.5 feet by maybe 2 feet. It looks, it's kind of shaped that organic shape, kind of like a little bit. It's not a real animal, of course. It's from IKEA. And I love that thrown over the back of a chair. Back to the layering idea. It's not big enough to go on a sofa, and I think it would not look great if you had like 3 of them in a row. So I would suggest putting that over the back of a chair. In fact, I have one in my office that I like to keep there because we need a little extra textiles around us when we're recording. So that stays year round in my office on the chair that I'm sitting on right now. But you might want to change it out, when it gets warmer, obviously, like you would put away your furry pillows. But that's a great inexpensive item. It washes really nicely. I think they have it in a sort of taupey brown, but they have it in the ivory, which is the one that they've had for years. I think that's a great little piece to have in your cozy toolbox, if you will. I wouldn't use it on the ground. It's too small, but I guess you could use it maybe in a powder room. But if people are walking in there with shoes on, I wouldn't do that. So I would say use it as a layering piece on the back of a chair would be, I think, the best use of it.
Oh, and I've seen those in chairs and they look so cozy and inviting, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah, link will be in the show notes for that.
What about some cordless lamps for your table or some other dark spot in your house? I found the most charming little table lights. They're cordless and they have this tiny little metal shade at the top. But I think of these, restaurants where they have the little light on the table. That's what these look like to me.
Mm-hmm.
Less than $40 for a set of 2. I just think these are great to have sitting around, especially on your table or, like I said, maybe on your countertop. But I think this is the time to get those out. And a lot of these have a setting where you can do a cool light or a warmer light. I found some I thought were really charming that I'm going to link.
Well, that's a great price. I've been talking about those for a while, and I think the name of the company, well, I know the name of it. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's Solarco, and I found them on Instagram quite some time ago, and I have 2 or 3 of those floating around my house. There's one on my desk, which is kind of in the middle of the room. I have one in my closet. They are great quality, but they're more expensive than yours. But it might be one of those things where now they've been around for a while, so the prices come down. Another company that I can recommend that I have not purchased from yet for myself, but I've seen them for quite some time in some of the UK publications that I read, and now they have a US component. It's Pooky, Pooky, and they have a very wide variety of chargeable lamps, sizes, shapes, different shades, even fabric shades. So I've been toying with getting a couple of those for actually the kitchen table, because sometimes I'm sitting there and I just need another little warm light. So maybe I should do that when we stop recording today, too. I've got a lot of things to buy. But yeah, so check out Pooky, and I'll put the link to them in the show notes as well.
What about your hallway hooks? We have some here. This house does not have a lot of closets. So, by the doors, we have hooks and, going out the back door, there might be swimsuits hanging there, pool towels. But now's the time. If you have those hanging there, take those down and put up the stuff for the fall. And, this can even be decorative if you, depending on what you put on it. But I put on some of my prettiest umbrellas hanging there, and I think the nicest cute little raincoat I have. And then also I have my wellies by the door, which are decorative, but also, I think they're nice looking, but also, I do use them out in the fields when it gets muddy, which we haven't had rain for a while, but it's great for that. So just think about, is the stuff in your house, is it appropriate for the season that you're in? Because I did find in the middle of summer in our mudroom, I looked out there and somebody had left gloves and a coat. And I'm thinking, come on, I don't even want to see this in the middle of summer.
Clearly not listening to the podcast as they
No,
should.
I know.
Fireplace. If your fireplace works, great, use it. But if it doesn't work, maybe you want to think about getting it going. I had held off on doing this for 8 years. We were doing so much when we moved into this house, and it just seemed like an expense we did not have to make at that time when other things were more important. And it is warm here a lot, but we do get wintry weather here, and it is gray a lot at certain times of the year, and we get a lot of rain. So last year I looked into it, and boy, was I surprised at how inexpensive it has become, or maybe always was, but I was told we were going to have to do some crazy stuff to our chimney, and because the house is so old and it was going to be so expensive. Well, turns out we didn't have to do that. We went with gas, and the whole unit came as one piece. Literally, the gentleman was in my house for maybe an hour and a half, and bam, I have a fireplace, and I love it. I haven't used it in the recent past, but when I had it, I'd put it on, just sit in front of it. The dogs would come. It was great. I was finding all kinds of reasons to be in that room and turn it on. And I do love a natural fireplace, but you have to have had it already here in California because of all the wildfires that kind of grandfathered them in.
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
wow.
so you have to either go gas, and of course going gas, there could be issues with that, but that was really the electric is just not a really good option right now. I did look into that, but if you're hesitating on maybe getting your fireplace going, I would look into it and see whether or not the prices have come down, or whether these gas units that I used would work for you.
Great idea. What about rugs? Because if you have wood or tile floors, they're going to be cold. And also, not just feeling cold when you're walking on them at night, when the days are cold and the nights are colder, but they look cold. I mean, there's a warmth about having rugs in your room. So this is something that I think that if you don't have rugs in your room, think about adding those. Unless you have wall-to-wall carpet, then that's a whole nother ball of wax. But think about adding those, and those are something that you can change out. I don't really change out my rugs. They're too bulky to store in between seasons, but I think that's a wonderful way to add some cozy.
An extra mirror, or if you have a mirror somewhere, set up some candles in front of it. Of course, you can use the battery operated ones, and from a distance, they look great and they will double reflect in the mirror. And that's going to obviously create a tremendous amount of cozy and ambiance in a room. But if you can use real candles, well, that's really the ticket there in front of a mirror. So I'm picturing this could be a sideboard, maybe in your dining room with a mirror above it, but it could really be in just about any space. And it doesn't have to be a giant long mirror, any mirror that you have. And if you could maybe do a little trio of candles in front of it, high, medium, and low would be great. Or you could do maybe 3 or 5 just on a horizontal row. So stunning. And take the time to light them, even if you're not necessarily, I mean, I wouldn't light them and then go out. I wouldn't light them and go upstairs, right?
Yep.
If you're going to be circulating through that room, light them up, even if it's just you there, because it's really, it's your house. Love being there.
So I wanted to talk about paint color for just a minute. I know that doesn't really jive up necessarily with coziness. When you're thinking about coziness, you're probably not thinking about your paint color. But if you went with the gray trend and used a cool gray color on your walls, then it's going to be very hard to warm that up. It's going to be very hard to make that look warm and cozy. So, if you have a warm gray, I think you're fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cool gray. It's very hard to warm that up. It's very hard to make that look cozy. So if that's what you have, just think about if it might be time to paint over that and go with something a little warmer. And we have lots of episodes on choosing paint colors that I will link in the show notes. But just give it a think on that.
My last item is a big bowl of veggies, of gorgeous fall type vegetables. You could put in there, I don't know, just about anything. Some gourds. I don't know if anybody can still get artichokes. The thing is, I can kind of get any vegetable here all year round in California. So I don't know what you can get. So what I could suggest to you, but probably you could get an eggplant or otherwise known as an aubergine, and it's that beautiful aubergine color. And you could get gourds, you could tuck in mid-sized pumpkins. So I'm talking big, like when I talk about plants for your room, I'm talking big. So a big bowl. See if you've got one somewhere in the back of your cupboards, or maybe get yourself an inexpensive wooden bowl or one of those long dough bowls that were so hot for a long time. Maybe you've got one of those. That would really work as well. And just put that out on your kitchen counter, island, table. And those fall colors will just really nod to the season in a beautiful, subtle way.
I think that's a great idea. And my last item, twinkle lights. Lighting adds so much. And if it's dark, the days are getting shorter. Isn't it beautiful to have some twinkle lights? Maybe you could put them in that dough bowl you were talking about. Or, I don't know, maybe you even have them if you have a tree inside, if you have brought in like just some sort of plants or something. I think they're great on the plant. Or just some other place in the house. I think they're just beautiful. Just put them in a bowl with some of those gourds that you were talking about. I think it's a great idea, and that adds some wonderful ambiance.
Okay, you ready for my crush? Because I know you're all on the edge of your seat.
Oh, well, DTT defines first.
I was jumping ahead.
You're so excited.
I am. I'm holding it again. It feels so good. Let us know what we're defining today.
So today we're defining credenza. And the reason I'm defining this, I think everyone knows what it is, but I found a very interesting history about the credenza. So that's a piece of furniture typically made from wood with a long, low profile, and it features cabinets, shelving, and drawers that can be used to store a variety of items. And I think of it as being utilized in an entryway, dining room, living room, bedroom, or kitchen. In fact, when I think credenza, I think study. I mean, isn't that what you think?
Sometimes I think dining room, but yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I call it a buffet in a dining room. In
Mm-hmm.
a study, I call it a credenza. But anyway, so it's this low piece of furniture, and sometimes it's used to store or serve food. Now, this word credenza comes from the Italian word for belief. And in the 16th century, the act of credenza entailed the tasting of one's food by a servant to ensure it wasn't poisoned. I was so fascinated by that. The word credenza is from
Wow.
it's from the medieval Latin uh, credentia. So, and the same thing happened in English as it did in Italian. The word in English was credence, and it meant the act of producing or of testing the character of food before serving it to ensure it wasn't poisoned. And that word was in Middle English. So I'm sure you've seen it in a movie. There's some king or knight or somebody, and he has a food taster to make sure that his food has not been poisoned. But who knew that there was a piece of furniture associated with that?
That's a really risky job. I mean, I really hope the compensation was in accordance with the risk. That, yeah, if anybody says to you, step up to the credenza and try this appetizer, I'd be like, I think I'll go in the kitchen.
Now, are
Thank
you going to want food served on a credenza now?
See, I'm not going to think about dining room anymore. Okay, here it comes.
Yes, okay, give it to us.
My crush. It is a Schumacher fabric that I absolutely love. It is the Madeline Velvet. I chose it in the camel color wave. It's from the Timothy Corrigan collection, and I don't know if everyone knows Timothy Corrigan. He's an American designer based in LA, but he's also known as the Chateau Whisperer. He buys up all these chateaus in France and brings them back to life and then sells them to people who can afford to live in a chateau in France. So all fabulousness is accorded to Timothy, and he did a fantastic job with this collection for Schumacher, but I think it's one of their older fabrics that they might have brought back in a new colorway. And it is just so gorgeous. I am redoing one of the rooms in our house into a very cozy, so that's very appropriate, TV lounge for everyone, but mostly kind of for Peter and I and the dogs. And so I am collecting lots and lots of swatches because I am going to have a sofa, a love seat that I bought from Lee Industry. Great, again, another great American brand. And we cannot get it out. There's no choice just to buy another love seat because we cannot get it out of the building because it has a bed in it and it's super, super heavy and both staircases are too narrow for it. When it came in up of the back of the house when the back of the house was still open before any of the balcony railings were put on. So let's just say it's not coming out and I'm going to need to reupholster it because it was kidified, teenagerified for a while. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of delighting in all my swatches. And this is a subtle animal print, but it's no doubt an animal print.
It's very beautiful. I just looked at it.
What's your crush?
Okay. Evie has gotten so into cooking. I cannot tell you how ecstatic I am because this is something that I get to enjoy because I get to try all of these foods that she is now making. And they are amazing. She finds all these people on Instagram that cook and they have these incredible recipes. So she's made so many things for me, but my all-time favorite of everything she has made is butternut squash fries with creamy chili lime sauce. And they have a spice, a kick to them. The sauce, the dipping sauce is amazing and they're crunchy too. So I'm going to include a link to the original recipe that she found. It's from Copy Me That is the name of the website she got it from. But amazing. I am going to make them myself, but I beg her to make them. But of course, she's on to other things. She won't keep making the same thing once I find a favorite like this. But I'm going to have to make it myself.
Great. So get yourself a butternut squash to display in your big bowl. And then when you're ready, make these fries. And it's cozy from beginning to end.
Exactly, exactly. Even our crushes were cozy, Kelly.
Yes, well, keeping on the theme.
Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. And remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful and cozy home. Until next time.
Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.